Hi, I'm Greg Hall, and I am going to go over how we import PSPE, APPE, and PSPE discovery data from an Excel file using SSIS, which stands for SQL Server Integration Services, which is an ETL. So an ETL is a way to get data from other sources like EDW and eValue and massage that data and put it into our tables and stuff like that. So ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. So let's get started. Let me go into our site, our development site, staging site. So we go here. Here's our login screen. I can log in with my user ID and password, but I'm also set up to log in with my IP. So it says here you logged in successfully with your IP. I'll click OK and voila. Here's our acceptance testing staging site. So let's look at the PSPE link server for APPE. So okay, so that's pretty quick. It came up pretty fast because it's calling stored procedures ahead of time, and we'll go over that in a bit. But I just wanted to go over how we will demo this. So I'm going to look at the EIM number, which is right over here. So so there's, you know, I'm going to look at numbers, under 10, right? Because I know that so the EIM numbers under 10 or under are going to be stuff we did for testing, right? Again, this is testing right now. We're in staging. We are not in the OEIS production site. So what's going to happen is that James is going to play around with this once he feels comfortable. And then we're going to move to the OEIS production, which is already set up. So here I can filter on anything that's, let's say, less than. Greater is less than. God, my eyes are so bad right now. Less than 10. Let's say that's good enough. Less than 10. Filter on that. And these are EIM numbers that are less than 10. You can see it here. We only have 1, 2, 3, and 5. So here, there's only 4 records. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my grid state. Save grid state. So what's that mean? That means if I move off this guy, let's say I go to the home menu page and I come back, it's going to remember my filtered grid state, which are, EIM numbers that are, less than 10, right? So that way we can just look at test records. So again, our EM numbers are, which is the E value, I think, primary key. So they're unique numbers. So 1, 2, 3, and 5. That's what we have thus far, right? Okay, so let's go into my directory here. And here we remember we map drive. We went over that with James. I showed him how we can map drive this guy. So this is the in this drive, which is pointing to the OEIS development server. We are looking at the directory PSP underscore APPE underscore Excel. So, and we're looking at testing. So I created a test folder here too. So if I click here, double click here, PSPE APPE Excel stage test. I have an Excel file here. So this is the name of the Excel file that James is going to use. It has to be this name because that's what I have in SSIS and how we're able to import. It's looking at this specific name. So let me double click here and see what we have so far. I think I put one record here because I was testing things. Okie doke, there should just be one record. And what I did was I just removed all the other records and changed the EIM node. That's pretty much all I did. So James, we really have to test this out because you're going to be inputting it yourself, all the new records, and I don't know how that works. Maybe there's certain characters it doesn't like. I don't know. Because what I did was get remember I exported the files from OEIS development and I just removed pretty much every single record and just kept one. So I know that, it's going to work. They're basically really existing records from the export, and I just changed to EIM now. So I changed it to 5, and what I did here was I just wrote, I just said in the internal notes, I put this is a test, number 5, fly, oh, fly like a G5. Is that what I put? Oh, I was thinking, that, what's that group? I can't remember. Uh, G6, fly like a G6. Um, okay, so let's change this. Let's remember that we had one. What did I have? 1, 2, 3, and 5. Let's change this to 4. Remember, I was missing a 4, so I'm going to put a 4 in here. I can see, and we'll change this. Now just test number 4. Good enough. Save my changes. And one thing to note is that you cannot leave this file open if you're running SSIS. It cannot have anything open, or it's gonna, when it runs the job that comes, I forgot, 3 in the morning, it's going to throw an exception because you can't have this guy open, right? You can't run things when the file that it's importing is open. So make sure you close it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to run the job, which I already set up. So I am going to go into, which I already remoted into the development server here, QCOEIS, the WWS001. Remember, this is SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. So, oops, so I have a bunch of these guys. Because I was playing with discovery, assessment, and of course, APPE. So here, it's right over here. So this is where you would double click. I think you already made a shortcut. Actually, I have 2 of these guys here to launch. You just click here to launch, or double click here to launch SQL Server Management Studio, or click once if you have it pinned. Okie doke. So let's go back up here. So what I'm going to do, this is the jobs right here. These are all the jobs that run, and I scheduled this 3 a.m. in the morning, I think, for the APPE comments and students. So what you can do is you can right click on this job, right? Just run it right now. And I can click on start right here, start job at step. And it is running right now. And this is green, we're A-OK. So if you left that file open, the Excel file open, it would be red right here, would throw an exception, but voila, successful. So it imported the file. It imported into, just to show you where it is. So I have a test, APPE Excel stage test, just for testing. So in the production OEIS, it looked at this right here. But this is test staging. And what it did was it imported that Excel file. I had 2 sheets in that Excel file. I had both APPE and student, but it imported to these 2 tables here. So what it does, well, we'll go over that later, but it empties out the table, and then it imports it. And that's in the data flow. I'll go through it later. Let's go into, let's go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reload. Remember, I saved the grid state so that we would only get one. Was it 1, 2, 3, and 5? And I just created a number 4. So let's reload this. And let me just say what it's doing when we reload. And then we'll go over it a second time when I go over the documentation, because I have documentation below the grid. I always put my documentation below the interface itself. We can talk about that at the end. But what it does when we launch this interface, it gets the data from that. Remember, we imported to that table. So in the OEIS development server, the APPE table and the student table. And well, so in this case, for the APPE, if there's any new records or even existing records, right, that are in here already, it updates that. It inserts it if it's new, or it updates it if it's existing in the tables in the OES development server, the ones I showed you, the APP comments and students. So it updates it there. When you launch this guy here, it copies it over to the dean's office server. You can say it moves it over, and it populates this grid, and that's what we get. And then once it does that, what it's going to do, it's going to empty the table in the OEIS development server, both the APPE comments and students. And that's because if you make any changes here, and if you were to reload this, if you didn't do that, it would overwrite it with what you have in the Excel file, right? Because it can. If you will, it's going to do that. Yeah, it's definitely going to do it. If you don't empty the table, so you're emptying the table, not the Excel file, you're emptying the tables, remember, in the OEIS development server, because if you don't, it's just going to overwrite what was imported, right? If you make any changes here. Because what it does here, when you save it, first it saves it to the table that's in the Dean's Office server, and also using something called link server, it updates the table, the APPE table in the OEIS development server. Again, we're doing on testing right now. It's gonna, if when for production, it's gonna update the production server, the production table, APPE production. So let's see if 4 actually came in. Let's look at, so voila, 4 came in. And remember, internal notes, what did I say? I said something here. I said test number 4, remember? That's what I put. So voila, it did work. I should have put something if it's an existing record, right? I didn't do that. I said change something here. And we could have done it, but it will work, by the way. And maybe that's what I should have done. And we can still do it. We'll do it a second time just so you can see it. But and then you can change anything here. I can put an exclamation mark, and I can save my changes, save successful. Voila. If I do reload, you'll notice that it actually did save. So what it did is update the table that's in the dean's office, and also directly into the APPE comments in the development server. Again, we're doing testing. When we're actually doing production, it's going to update that production server APPE table, the actual APPE table, not the Excel APPE table, the actual APPE table. So notice when I reload, if we look at the internal notes, right here, it did update it. Number 4, there's an exclamation mark after that. Oh, my eyes are so bad, but it's there. There, you can move that. There's an exclamation mark. Okie doke. So let's do this really quick to show that you can also update an existing record. I should have just done both at the same time. That would have been a lot faster, but no worries. We can do that. Let's go. We're in stage test. Make sure you're in stage test. If we're just doing testing first, I'll double click here. And let's go back to number 4, and I'll show that we make a change here. It's going to show up in the grid interface. So number 4, let's put something different. Okay, how about put a comma here, and I'll say fly like a G4. Okay, so I'll save this guy and saved it. Again, make sure you close this once you're done, or when this job runs, it's going to throw an exception if that file is open, right? Because it's looking for that file. It can't be open. So let's go back. Where am I going back to? Here, remote, and I am going to run that job. Okay, so this runs at 3 a.m. in the morning. I can right click here, start the job. Voila. Dun, dun, dun. Should say successful. And success. Good. So close this guy. We can minimize this guy. Let's go into our web interface. I can reload this. Again, what it's doing, it's grabbing that imported data that in from the APP Excel table in in OEIS development, and we have to do a development. I tried doing it I deployed it in production, and for some reason, jobs, there must be some security, a lot of security in production, which you really don't need because it's already secure. I think we overdid it. It's secure enough, but maybe there's something, but it would not run. The job would not run in production. So that's why I'm doing everything. All the importing is going to be in OEIS development. Even assessments team are doing everything in OEIS development. Um, so, um, so what were we going to look at so for number 4, we are looking at internal notes. Notice it updated an existing record. It says test number 4, fly like a G4. Okay, so that worked, right? And we were able to edit it. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you here. Did I miss anything? There's documentation. Oh, once you're finished, saving your grid state, remember to reset your grid state to get all your records back, right? So the way I did it, I sort of in descending order the cohort. So you see the most current on top. Again, this is staging. You're not going to see, it's as much as you would in production. Okie doke. So documentation, just click here. It's going to the below the grid interface. And it just, shows you the processes. So for example, let's go through this quick because I have discovery to talk about. So you have map drive, remember, on the development server. These are packages, an Excel file in this directory here. In it's the C:\PSPE underscore APPE Excel. That's the directory, right, where the files reside in and where the SSIS package resides in too. So that's the name of the folder of the SSIS package. Excel file name right here. Make sure it's a XLSX, right, which is the 64-bit version, the newer version of Excel. And that's probably because it doesn't have the drivers for the older ones, the 32-bit. Okay, so update tables. Okay, what does it say here? OEIS dev APPE Excel database. That's the name of the database. So, but for staging for tests, the name of the database is APPE underscore Excel underscore stage underscore test. The database in SSMS and SQL Server Management Studio. That's where those Excel tables reside in. And just to note, like I said, when you make sure on the map drive folder, you cannot have your Excel file open, right? On that folder, we cannot have it open, else SSIS, when it's running, it's going to throw an exception. Job schedule at 3 a.m. in the morning, Monday through Friday. So that's when it does the import. Okay, so below is the data flow. This is how. So I just have some screenshots, SSIS. So it just empties the table. I do it for both, for what we're going to do for production and what we're doing at staging. So again, James is going to use staging just for now. And once he said, hey, if everything's hunky-dory, okay, we'll move it up to production. So here we just empty the tables. It does that for you here. And again, this is the data flow. And then it imports the Excel file for the ATP comments. This is for production. It's going to do that. And then the students. And then here for stage test, it imports the APPE comments from the Excel file and students here. That's what it's doing. And here's the data flow task. This is an example where it gets the source, the Excel source that James is going to update and then copy that Excel file into that folder, that map drive folder, and then it's going to its destination and import it inside our SQL Server table in the OEIS development server. Okay, this is just how we deploy it from SSIS. We deploy it to SSMS, SQL Server Management Studios. And so in SQL Server Management Studios, you can see in integrated services, you'll see the packages here, and I run a job, which you just saw here. I run this job, I create a job that runs at 3 a.m. in the morning, Monday through Friday. You can right click here, click on right click, and you just click on start job at step. You know, and that's it. You just click on that and it's going to run it. If you want to, if you want to see your results ahead of time, right? Instead of waiting the following day. Oh, you don't care store procedures. I won't go over all of these guys. So basically, again, when it calls store procedures when you launch it, it takes the new or existing records and it imports the record. Excuse me, this one, first one, it just inserts the records and then what it's going to do into that table in development, OEIS development, and then there's going to be another store procedure. What it's going to do is it's going to move it over to the dean's office table, APUPE table, and then once it populates the grid, what it's doing, it's going to empty out the table, right, from the OEIS development server. And that's because if you do edit anything in the grid, you don't want it to override it, right? Because when you reload, what it's doing, it gets those records and looks at that table from the OEIS development server and either does it insert if it's a new record or if the existing record, it just updates it, right? So you have to empty it out right after. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let's go over to discovery. I don't want to spend too much time talking on this. Hope this makes sense. I'll go over it today in our meeting at 11. So let's go over discovery. So discovery is pretty much the same thing. Um, let's actually, oops, I actually launched SSMS in my laptop. I didn't mean to do that. So here we have one for discovery. It's right over here. Discovery, you can see it up here somewhere. There is discovery. Discovery Excel is right over here. This guy here. And you can see the tables here. It's called master with a $sign in the end. Okay, so we are just going to run it really quick. It runs something like 3:30 in the morning. I can right click here. Remember, there's that start. Oh, before I run it, let's just show you what it has. I'm not going to run it yet. What I want to do is, oh, I don't need to see this here. I can do it from here, but I like doing it from here. So we are going to the discovery right here, and we are going to launch the Excel file. So this is the name it has to be. This is what Alexa is going to edit or update this table and move it into the map drive folder. So this is how it looks like. What I did when I was testing this out, I just looked at the first record. I went to internal notes, which is somewhere here, if my eyes can see. And I think I put something like test. There's internal notes somewhere. Oh, internal notes is right over here. Okay, so for the first one, what I am going to do for internal notes, oh, I have tests in here already, right down here, test. So that's what I did. Let's put something else here to show that I actually, let's put hello world or something. Okay, so hello world. Okay, I save my changes. This, and let's close this. Remember, you have to close this guy. And then we're going to run right over here. We are going to right click for the discovery, the job. This is the job right here, the jobs. We are going to right click here and click on start job at step. And hopefully it says successful. Cross your fingers. Perfect. Success. Close this guy. Let's go minimize this here. And we can minimize this guy here. I didn't mean to do this, guys. Cancel out of here. We can close this. So don't get in the way. This is that SQL Server Management Studio on my laptop. We don't need to see that. And we are going to Discovery, which is somewhere here. Can't remember exactly. Discovery data. Here we go. Okie doke. And we have assessments. We have Tableau discoveries right over here. Click here. And I did that very first records in internal notes. So we should see it pretty soon when we see internal notes right over okie doke. Okie doke. We don't see it yet. This is done a little differently. Okay, we go to link servers right here, import link servers. Voila. Because there's a preview on Alexis. So this is now what it just did. It took the data, it took the records from, remember what was imported from the OEIS development server. So if I go to internal notes here, hello world, it's right here. I did it on the first record. And this is a preview now. So it'd be nice if I had time to do it on a PPE. And I also have to do students, but I'm looking at the time. Right now I just want to make sure we have it working. And maybe if there is time, I can make it look better, but there's stuff I got to do for assessments. So Laura actually did, she had a committee, Yuki and Laura, just recently. And so there's some changes I got to make. They like what we have in Tableau. It's pretty cool. I should show you guys that. So anyways, hello world. And let's say you say, oh, this is what I want. I'll update. You can click update discovery. You go, oh, maybe I don't want it. You can cancel it. Okay, you canceled. But again, you can click here and you just click OK. And voila, it's going to update the database. The actual update the table in the database, the actual table. And voila, you can see it here, the very first record. Hello world, you can make changes here. Let's just blank it out because you don't want to see it. Same amount of changes. Say save successful right here. You can also edit from the flyout menu too. There's an edit form right here. You can edit from here. Make changes here and close this guy here. You don't have as many fields here, but you have the major fields. And yeah, let's go back to the grid. One thing to note, so once we're finished, I think, so I went over this with Alexa. I think you have to have it completed. You have to have a reveal status and it has to complete it. There's a drop down and you have to complete it. Check that. Then she would come over somewhere. So this is test development. Well, on the production, OEIS production, if you were to go to the drop down, there is actually a live. Oh, I probably didn't make sure I didn't have. There's a live thing, and it's going to ask for confirmation. So if you click here, it's going to ask for confirmation on live, and then it would actually, update the production OEIS. So that's when she's pretty much finished with everyone, right? There's user rows. So there's set user rows. Alexa, if you remember, we have all the. Well, this one's test, but you would have all the faculties here. Test doesn't have as many because this is, again, yeah, this is test. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So from here, I can go back to the primary grid here. And yeah, that's how we update it through it. So it'd be nice to have a preview for games if there was time. Let me do the students. I think it's important to have students, the students table, because the student information system looks at both the Commons APPE table and the students table. And in the past with Catherine, we did have issues with the student names. It would come, with so SSIS, one that Stephen and Neha developed, it pulls things from EDW, which has student information, and it must have, there was some probably human error on their side because the names didn't come in correctly. So she asked me, to fix that, make the changes. The name is incorrect. I can't remember. She probably asked me a couple of times to do it. And so I had to go to SQL Server Management Studios and run a query to update that, to correct it. So you don't want to do that because if you make a mistake, you can update the name with all that update it accidentally to all the records, right? You can make human errors. So it's good to have a interface like this where you can actually see everything. So I know in SQL Server Management Studios, we were looking at the edit, it looks at the first 200, but you're going to have to write queries and stuff to look at everything. And yeah, it's just safer to have. One thing to note too is that remember that we have something called PSPE, is ready, is final, which is somewhere here. If my eyes can see, um, there is a is ready, is final right here. This third one. And this is near the end of the cycle. You're going to have to, you can filter on cohort state, grid state. You're going to have to, for 2023, you have to do is ready, is final. You have to check these guys. I'm not going to save this. So that's near the end of the cycle. You can ask Lisa about that when we should have this done. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to save it. So I think I covered everything. I hope this makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. So let me stop my share and end.